breaking free. Yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression. It's out for liberty. Breaking free. Yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts. We're reclaiming our land. They try to silence us, but we won't be tamed. Voices getting louder, can't keep us in chains. We got the power, we got the might. Together we can shine, together we can fight. Feel the rhythm in your feet, it's time to stand tall. Raise your voice and shout, we're breaking down the walls. We're breaking free, yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression, it's out for liberty. Breaking free, yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts, we're reclaiming our land. They try to silence us, but we won't be tamed. Voices getting louder, can't keep us in chains. We got the power, we got the might. Together we can shine, together we can fight. Feel the rhythm in your feet, it's time to stand tall. Raise your voice and shout, we're breaking down the walls. We're breaking free, yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression, it's out for liberty. Breaking free, yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts, we're reclaiming our land. We're claiming our land, yeah.
Hey guys,
Hey, great to be with you. How are you?
doing well, Mike. How are you?
Great. Down
David.
here in Florida with David Moskrip. Your sign here says Mike ter Maat, but we're not both Mike ter Maat. David Moskrip is absolutely David Moskrip.
He's kind of a force behind the scenes, you know, so he likes to stay incognito a little bit, and you know, so it's kind of on brand for him.
I think you're probably right about that. For the rest of your viewers who may not be as lucky as I am and be familiar with David, David is the chairman of the Libertarian Party of Hillsborough County, which of course includes Tampa. I don't actually know how much of Tampa. We are together in Florida helping some of David's neighbors who have fared not as well as others in the Milton storm.
Yeah, it's I'm a Floridian myself, Florida transplant from Chicago, as you can tell by the glorious accent I got going on. But yeah, it's been a crazy 2-3 weeks down here with back-to-back hurricanes. And as a Floridian, I'd like to say, you know, we appreciate all of what you two guys are doing and everybody that's involved. It's just unbelievable, you know, this close after Ian, and you know, we're right back in the mix.
Yeah, it's really something. Helene and Milton, a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, we barely got internet back, and I was kind of getting back online, and I tried to do this show live, and you know, then all of a sudden, you know, the reports are coming in that we're about to get hammered again. So 2 in a row, and now there's another one forming, and they said if it takes a right, it hits us. So hopefully we can get missed for once. Not another fastball right down the middle like the last two.
That's been pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys were out there today, the last couple of days. You know, David, I know I've been keeping tabs on you. I know that you were out there, you know, while it was still going sideways out there. What's it like out there?
I think, you know, we've seen everything from flooding. You know, we made a video earlier to show, I mean, there's streets over, especially in the Brandon area, that just, you know, they just disappear under the water. It looks like they're running directly into a lake, like a dock or something. We've also seen a lot of enormously heavy trees down in people's yards that we've been going after with chainsaws, trying to help them out. There's a lot of, you know, elderly people in Florida, and they just can't physically do that. We actually just left a little bit ago a young family's house who had, say, probably 2.5 to 3 feet of standing water. You could see on the wall where the water was before it receded. Yeah, and they've got to cut out all that drywall. They've got to have all their electrical redone before they can even turn the power on. So we were out there just trying to help them tear up carpet, throw everything that they owned away. It's just, you know, they have a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old children, and it's just kind of sad to see everything. But I mean, and that's what's awesome, is they were in really good spirits through it.
Amazing.
All. Yeah,
amazing.
Really thankful to
They were
people
more
come
upbeat
out.
than David and I were.
And you're two upbeat guys. Mike, I heard, I've always liked your policies. You're dead on with me with the way you look at things from a policy perspective and issues. But I heard you went full Javier Milei today and you were whipping out the chainsaw and going after it. Was that report correct that I heard you were out there with the chainsaw?
It had nothing to do with policy. At some point, you got to realize as a good libertarian, you got to take matters into your own hands. And David and I were both out there running the chainsaws. David likes to leave the pieces a little bit big, if you know what I mean. He likes to cut down a full branch and look at me like, you can carry it away now. I'm like, another cut buddy would help out an old man. Yeah, I wish that I were taking the chainsaw, to the tax code and to the federal budget, but a few big trees I'll have to do for today.
We should have painted policies on the tree as we were chopping it off.
That's a little too creative for me. I appreciate. Dave's a very creative guy.
Basic Beach says no more hurricanes. Florida is closed. So I think we have an official announcement there. We will not be doing any more hurricanes.
We could at least tax the hurricanes as they show up. Speaking of taxing the hurricanes, I want to encourage everyone who has the ability to do so. You can get involved physically. Contact David. His email address is chair@lphillsboro.com. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Chair@lphillsboro.com. You would have to spell it correctly, though. How do you spell Hillsboro?
It's HILLSBOROUGH.
That's a little tough.
I think Terry will put that in the comments for us. She's the brains of the operation.
All right,
So
that's good.
Terry's
If
behind
that
the
doesn't
scenes
work for
manning
you,
the controls here.
If that doesn't work for you, you can email me at mike@ter.com, which is no easier to spell. But I would also encourage, folks that are not within driving distance of wherever David is going to make you run a chainsaw. If you're not within driving distance of here, you can still participate. The Libertarian Mutual Aid.com is a coalition that represents libertarians all over the United States. It is run by a couple of folks. Pat Ford in Rhode Island, who a lot of folks know, has done a tremendous amount of work raising money. And as importantly, and this is something that we sometimes don't think of as being so important, figures out where that money needs to go. And, we have people on the ground in North Carolina. Tennessee has been doing a terrific job, LP Tennessee. People on the ground in Virginia, in North Carolina, who have been helping Pat figure out where it is that people need funds and activity and action to help clean up what happened after Helene. And now he's doing the same thing in Florida. So if there's folks out there that want to part with $500 or $50, I would encourage you to go to libertarianmutualaid.com. And I can personally promise, and I know David's going to back me up on this, there are folks on the ground like David who help make sure that every single one of those dollars is stretched as far as absolutely possible. This is a zero waste proposition. No one's taking administrative fee. No one is wasting any pennies whatsoever.
Right. And this is just as an example, he sent some of the funds that he had designated for Florida a little bit earlier. And that's going to go for things like when this family has the ability to turn their power back on. I mean, think about that. A family of four lost all of their groceries. Their refrigerator literally lifted up floating because there was so much water, and then fell flat on its back and is braced in the kitchen in such a way that we're not sure even how they can get it out. But once all of that's done, there's important things like that. I mean, that's a pretty big chunk of change when you lose all of your family's food like that. So, the money's going directly to that.
This is not a family with a lot of money. To be able to throw $100 to them, for example, actually makes a difference. And there's literally hundreds of examples like that around the area.
I just want to shout out Gina from Lou's Views is here. Hey, Gina. And hey, Joseph. Just wanted to give a shout out to a couple of people joining us. You mentioned Libertarian Mutual Aid, and you guys did a great video earlier. I thought it was, really well done, and showed you guys out there working, and you talked about Libertarian Mutual Aid. And the one thing I wanted to hit on, and you just mentioned it, but I want to make sure everybody knows that Libertarian Mutual Aid gives 100% of the money to the victims of the hurricane. So this is not one of those they're paying the CEO multi six figures for a salary, and maybe 25 cents on the dollar is going to end up helping that family. This is 100% of the money. Am I correct?
It's not only are you exactly right, but it's more than that. I would argue that about 110% of the money goes to the people who need it, because you've got goofballs like Dave Moskrip here who are incurring expenses on his own to make sure that the money gets into the right hands, and doing work with his own hands, getting it done. And, occasionally you bust a saw blade. I'm not naming any names. Okay. I'm not naming any names, but occasionally a piece of equipment gets busted because maybe someone didn't handle it correctly. I'm not naming names here. Okay. When that happens, Dave is the kind of guy that steps up, and, if he incurs a little bit of expense, that's just the way it has to be. So I would argue that when folks give $100, you're actually getting $110 of value. And
you're an economist, so nobody can really argue with you on that unless Milton Friedman comes back or something. So
that's exactly right. This is actually a free lunch. There is such a thing as a free lunch. It is when you give money to LibertarianMutualAid.com, you get a free lunch, and that means that Dave Moskrip is going to go out, work hard, make sure people get the funds and the help that they need. And then he's going to buy himself lunch, and we're not going to pay for it. So we're getting a free lunch out of it.
I also wanted to put out there, you're saying that David's throwing his own money in, which I happen to know for a fact is something he does with all of these projects. David is I think what you would call in economics, the loss leader in all of these projects. Yeah. And not only that, though, but you guys are kind of nuts being out there, because I'm about 100 miles south of you, and like our roads are still not very safe, and it's muddy. If the water's receded, you're lucky, but there's places where the water hasn't receded, and there's no gas. So you guys are actually out there, risking yourselves being put in a bad situation by going out there and doing this. So in my eyes, it's even more heroic than it sounds on the surface, because like I'm still, scared to leave my house and wander too far away, because you don't know if you're going to be able to get gas. You don't know if you're going to end up stuck in the mud. You don't know if you're going to end up in a puddle, which, cuts your engine. It's just, it's not very safe out there. And so,
well, you got to be a little bit careful.
You guys doing that.
It's, most of the roads are clear here. So as long as you know where to go. Now, to get home tonight, David gave me a path that took a street right into a lake. So I don't know if he's trying to get rid of me or what, but you got to be a little bit careful. You got to know who you can trust, right? And I must
Where does he fall in the succession thing? Is he like the Secretary of State, and if you go away, he's the VP? Or
there must be something going on like that. I don't think he actually knows that there's nobody in power right now. He can relax. Sure, it is true that once in a while, someone, I don't want to name names, somebody might chainsaw a huge branch off of a tree, and it might fall on someone's leg. I'm not blaming anyone, okay? I'm not saying that's anyone's fault. I'm just saying you got to be a little bit careful. No big deal.
I just do want to clarify that he chainsawed the branch that fell on his own leg.
Yeah, that could happen. That might have been what happened.
So in this situation, one of you is Aaron Burr and the other one's Alexander Hamilton. Am I getting this
That's
straight?
Exactly right. And I'm Alexander Hamilton because it's not looking good for me. It's touch and go out there, Free.
So
this is another reason why we need more volunteers.
Yeah.
To keep me safe.
Probably less that play instruments and more that can play chainsaws, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Musical skills are overrated in this particular venue.
Except if the flooding goes real high, banjos in the swamp, I hear, is a thing. So
dare. Okay. Yeah. So that's actually a thing. And of course, once in a while, a symphony will go down with the ship. But if you want to stay safe, you can send money to LibertarianMutualAid.com. I don't know if I mentioned that website yet. It's LibertarianMutualAid.com. It's .org, isn't it?
Oh, yes. It's .org.
LibertarianMutualAid.com. .org. .org.
Terry's on it, and but she was following your lead. So we had .com, but it is .org.
It's
Right.
.org. Libertarian Mutual Aid .org.
There we go. That's correct.
If one doesn't work, try the other one.
That's probably for organization, would be my guess. There it is, libertarianmutualaid.org. Terry is the best. And speaking
It's funny.
of Terry,
I always thought that ORG stood for something else, but
I'm guessing.
okay,
so.
let's go with organization. That could be
just
true.
one thing that people do need to know is you can designate where the funds go if you like in the comments. So if you put Florida in the comments,
Is that true?
Yeah, he will send that directly to Florida. And same with Tennessee, wherever you are, if you're wanting to give directly to a specific area.
That's interesting. So not only are you getting a free lunch, you're getting 110% of your money going to help people, and you can direct it to where you want. This is such a good deal that I think I might do it myself right now. This is very exciting. And I can designate what state I want it to go to?
Yes, he made sure that he said that earlier today.
All right. No, that's excellent. That's excellent. And can I put a comment in here about Pat Ford while I'm at it? Like, hi, Pat?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I haven't had time to actually go through the process yet.
Okay. Well, I'm going through the process right now. So that's good. Did we get rid of Free? Where is he?
I'm back. I zoomed in. I was trying to steal your password, actually. So I zoomed in there and I was seeing, which Bitcoin wallet you were using to make the donation to
My
Pat's
password
organization.
is free for us for all.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I might be able to spell that one.
I
So,
knew he might try that. That's why I made sure we didn't have a mirror behind us.
oh, good call on that. I think you just wanted to show off your library, David. I know you live in a palatial estate up there. And
You go to the website, and then you hit the menu in the upper left-hand corner, and then you hit donate. See how that works right there? And then it comes up. Okay. This is very exciting. You can donate Bitcoin, by the way. I'm hanging on to my Bitcoin. I got some of those, what do they call it? They print in the United States? Dollars. They're not worth nearly as much as I'm going to give some of those away.
Get rid of them while the getting's good on those.
While the giving is good. While they're still worth a damn.
Yeah. I believe that the economics is buy low, sell lower is the US dollar.
Something like buy low, sell before it's too late.
Yeah.
Okay,
sell,
and
sell
then
before it's worth less
you
than the
got to
paper it's
find
printed on.
the right button. But if I'm making my way through here. Libertarian Mutual Aid, Inc. Apparently.
This is riveting live TV here. This is
add $0 to help cover the fees. I'm hitting that box.
Too bad we don't have like the hurricane like blowing you around while you're doing this, because I think that would add a little excitement.
You don't have to wait for me. We could talk about something else.
Okay. I didn't know. I mean, you're the VP candidate. I'm just the clown with the show,
Actually, he's probably going to slow this down.
I understand.
Like to have
if I were all that good at this, I would be the presidential candidate. Okay. So, if you wanted interesting TV, you would have Chase on.
We have had Chase on. We've actually had both of you on twice. We're very equal with the ticket here. So I wouldn't turn on me at minute number what are we 27 here? So
Amount is required. You can't give 0. You got to put in a number. Okay.
I have a feeling that in editing we're gonna have to speed this up like Benny Hill. So we'll have to make this a little bit more interesting with the super fast zoom. So while you're doing that, I'm gonna add in Terry Batts, who is my partner in crime on the show here, and she is our master researcher. And she has some data about the Florida recovery efforts and had some questions along those lines. So welcome, Terry. You are muted, Terry.
Hi, Terry. How you doing? By the way, I did figure out that if you want to cover the costs, like I put in 50 and I hit the box that says, do you want to cover the cost of the transaction? It added only $1.99. That's actually a pretty good deal. That's not a fee for Pat Ford or for Dave. That's the credit card processor and all that. Just want to point that out so that people know what to expect.
All right, Terry, you got to unmute your mic here. There we go.
I did. I think I'm still learning, so you have to be nice. I have everything down on your Libertarian Mutual Aid.org, and I promise that I will do a post for you guys after the show to put out on X and see if we can't get some help going there. And
thank you very much.
You're welcome. When the hurricanes first hit, actually when Helene first hit, and there was such a lot of drama and stress going on about funding for FEMA, a lot of people, what do you have there, Mike? But they were having all kinds of fits about funding, and Mayorkas actually went on TV and said that FEMA didn't have any money. Did you catch that line?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what words he used the first time. He kind of stumbled over himself. And, you know, this is in fairness to the secretary, you know, numbers are not his thing and he's not very articulate. So let me help him. Okay. Let me help him. Because he's a little over his head in terms of his administrative responsibilities. What he means is that the fund that Congress appropriates, that is set aside to provide funds to folks that need it in federally declared disaster areas, is running down, and that it is likely not to survive past Milton. And then he didn't handle the conversation very well, and people came to the conclusion that maybe one of the reasons why FEMA didn't have enough money was because it had used funds for other things. And I think a couple of things need to be said. Number one, FEMA does use money to do other things that are stupid. So, you know, we shouldn't let him off the hook. You know, he not only is he particularly not very good at this, but it is also true that we have been giving money away to people who come to the United States. They come for great reasons, right? They come because they want to work, they want to build a new life for their families. But there are some places in the United States that have been giving money away, which turns out to be a bad policy for any number of reasons, not the least of which is that we can't afford it. And because it puts immigration in general in a bad light. It creates the impression that maybe some of these people are coming for welfare, which of course is not true. People don't come to the United States for welfare. I mean, maybe once in a while somebody does. But for the most part, people come to the United States to get a job and to work hard and build great lives for their kids and for themselves and for their families. And these are people that we want to have come into the United States, right? But the other thing that needs to be said is that FEMA's money management problems, which I do not want to minimize because FEMA has notoriously failed to manage their funds particularly well, is true, but not because of the immigration issue. In other words, two things can be true at the same time. Just because they haven't done that particular thing badly doesn't mean they haven't done a number of other things badly, I guess is what I would say.
Well, one of the things that I question is that they had just received their 2025 fiscal year funds. Those have just gone through. They were approved. That started on October 1st. So when he had a completely brand new budget. He's not working out of the 2024 budget. He's working out of the 2025 fiscal year budget. So that was one of the other reasons I think a lot of people got confused about it. If we just focus on what's going on in here in Florida, where you guys have been helping out and everything, the actual money, well, let's start with the people. We've had 2 hurricanes here, 2 weeks, 2 hurricanes. We're not going to go for 3. And then we have 93 FEMA employees within the entire state of Florida. 93. We have 3 survivor centers where you're supposed to be able to go to get help in the entire state of Florida. So because it goes from way down south all the way up to the Bend, and actually all the way, with the tornadoes included, all the way across the state. And we have 3 centers. So in another, oh Lordy, in another state, North Carolina, they have nearly 200 people and 10 centers. So there's a question about the allocation and how that's figured out as well.
There is indeed. We have to do we need to get FEMA to do a couple of things better. By the way, we also have to recognize that there are a lot of resources that are not under FEMA's control, and nor do we want a situation in which the federal government is the only set of resources on which we rely, right? The state of Florida has done a pretty good job of leaning into these disasters with resources, making sure that the private sector has been mobilized, particularly with regard to making sure people are getting power as quickly as possible. There remain many people without power, and that is a absolute source of frustration. But you're absolutely right that FEMA needs to learn how to do a few things better, including making sure that people understand that many of the services that you would seek at one of these centers, you can engage online.
If you have power and internet and or phone service. But
that is exactly right. And that's why these centers remain important. And to your point, we need to do a better job of allocating where those are going to be. In fairness to FEMA, the 1-2 punch of the hurricanes meant that there was a lot more damage that was anticipated up in, to the west of Florida, the Panhandle and points west. And I think that they got caught with their trousers down a little bit with the second hurricane.
I don't know. Florida does pretty good when it comes to the emergency part of it. They start 3 or 4 days before they even get here. But after seeing some of the things that FEMA's doing right now and stopping people from actually assisting, like you guys were out there, you were cutting up the trees, you were helping people clear out their properties and things like that. If a company in Florida or any state goes to do that just out of the goodness of their heart, say a lawn service or somebody went to go do what you did today, they would be told they weren't allowed to do it because they weren't under FEMA contracts. It always goes back to the money with the government. Did you guys hear anything today? Gina has a question about how long they're saying for the power to be back on. I know we still have about 300,000 people without power.
Yeah, I can only speak from my experience is in the past, when Irma came through here 7 years ago, it was September 11th, 2017, I lost power in my house for 2 weeks. This time where I live, I had power back within like 18 hours. And so I think that's the frustration, is just nobody knows. And they try to do a good job as getting as many people back online as easily and quickly as possible. But that means, if you're not in one of the, in a neighborhood that has hundreds of houses, then you're kind of lower on the priority list. And so it's frustrating because like today, you could have a house full of water and you can't even hook up a shop vac. So,
nope. But we started out with 4 million.
Terry, sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say real quick, Terry and Free, thanks for having me on with Mike for a little bit here. I'm going to go back to being behind the scenes though, and let you guys.
Oh, come on.
Thanks for doing this, David. I know
he's gonna go run a chainsaw right now, and then he's gonna point at the pieces he cut in the morning, like, okay, you can carry him away now. So this is not necessarily a good thing for me.
It might be a year before they get the debris up.
Yeah. It could be a while. A lot of people are working very, very hard, and we wish them the best.
See you guys.
Thanks for doing this, David. I know you've been working your ass off up there, so we really appreciate you taking time.
David's got no ass left, Free. It's all gone.
I see a big bicep over there, so I saw he was still there. So I was
yes, he is. He's young and healthy and strong, so we need to keep him working. But his ass is all gone.
Every time he updates his profile picture, I notice a button gets missing. So he's down to like right around like here on the
his profile
he's getting
picture. Ripped and shredded.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, we appreciate all of his efforts and making tonight happen as well. So he's a good guy.
He is a
Terry,
good
did you have
guy,
any more
and
questions for Mike here?
He can't hear me right now because he's in another room. So I can say safely behind his back that he not only is he a good guy, but he's identifying places through his church, for example, finding families that need help. So he's kind of connective tissue with multiple communities. And I think it ought to be said that the Libertarian Party of Hillsborough is making great strides as well. This is a party affiliate that didn't even exist a couple of years ago. And they're bringing new people in. They've got Nate Snyder, who has done a lot of work out there cleaning up. He has suspended his campaign for Congress, and just a young man with his priorities straight. So we're really grateful for all the people that David has surrounded himself with.
And thank you very much
Absolutely.
for answering my questions, and I appreciate it. I'm glad everybody's doing okay down there.
You look like you're in a nice spot there, Terry, with the beach and all that behind you. So, feel free to make yourself a cocktail and enjoy the rest of the show.
Oh, thank you. I most certainly will.
All right, Mike. So, you've been on the show before, and, I like to play games and mix it up a little bit and, not do the same boring softball interview. And obviously you're a worthy candidate here with your background in economics and law enforcement. And so the game I want to play with you is called, we call it Liberty Level. Some of my friends also call it True or Argue, because if I don't like your answer, sometimes they get a little chippy. But
that sounds good. That sounds like a lot of fun. I will do my best to make it boring, but you always make it difficult for me to make it boring. So let's get going.
I try. So basically, it's a rapid fire game. And I like to get as many answers for the viewers as possible to show, your total breadth of knowledge and all of your experience and expertise. So I'll just shoot off some questions. They're basically on the Likert scale. So you could say, strongly agree, strongly disagree, true, false, whatever hits you. But want to hit you with some questions here. So
let's do it.
First one is general government interference. So the government should play a minimal role in regulating the economy.
That's absolutely true. And the reason it is true is because we know that the gold standard of economic efficiency is absolutely zero interruptions whatsoever. If all you care about is economic efficiency, there are a lot of people that care about other things, I suppose, too. But if all you cared about were economic efficiency, you would want no government intervention whatsoever. All we really need the government for is to stand up a court system and make sure that people aren't committing crimes like fraud and theft.
Private businesses function better when the government does not interfere.
That is absolutely true. And by the way, not only does that dovetail with your previous question, but it brings up a related issue, which is to say we need to get rid of the corporate income tax. Corporate income tax is one of the dumbest policies on this planet. There are people outside of the solar system who make fun of us. It's so dumb.
You're skipping ahead here. I like it. It's so the next category is actually taxes and fiscal policy. Reducing taxes for individuals and businesses will stimulate economic growth.
That's actually true. It's not quite as true as some past Republicans have claimed, which is to say you're not going to actually increase tax revenue in most cases, not in every case, but in most cases, you're not going to increase tax revenue by cutting tax rates, but you will get business to work better and to work more. And by the way, one of the big reasons you want to cut taxes is not just so businesses work better and work more, but to attract more businesses. We want to encourage the development of capital as well as the migration of capital into states with low taxes and into this nation that we wish to have a low tax rate to attract investment from abroad.
Tax cuts encourage entrepreneurship and job creation.
That is true, especially to the extent to which it helps start new businesses and foster businesses' growth. And like I say, what we want is a competitive environment in which states are competing with each other to provide the best business environment possible to attract new businesses.
Government spending is often wasteful and should be reduced.
It should be reduced, but not just because it's wasteful. It is wasteful. The government does waste a lot of money because it does things so inefficiently, but it is, it can be a little bit misleading. Even when the government works efficiently and does whatever it's trying to do well, in other words, when the government decides it wants to do something and it does a good job of it, maybe, and, things go well and it was handled efficiently and someone claims there wasn't much waste there. No, the whole thing can still be wasteful. It can still be a bad idea. Just because you did it efficiently doesn't mean that thing you were doing should have been done in the first place. NASA, the moonshot, right? Just because you look at that and you say, wow, a lot of smart people, they really did they did something that was really fascinating and hard to do, and they succeeded. No one else could have done it, whatever great thing you want to say about it. At the same time, you can still make the argument, we shouldn't have done it anyway. We shouldn't have done it in the first place. This is not something that was in America's interest, to take money away from people, including families that are among those who can least afford it, and take that money and spend it on a moonshot. It is not in the strategic interest of most Americans. And so it is true that wastefulness is one of the reasons why we want to stop the government from spending so much money. But I would argue that when we use the word waste, we make it sound like, oh, well, if the government would just do it better, we'd be happy with all the stupid things that government does. And that's not the case.
The government should not redistribute wealth through taxation
or in any other way. One of the most wretched things that Barack Obama ever said was, it wouldn't be, I will not quote him perfectly here, paraphrasing. He said something along the lines of, it wouldn't be a bad thing to spread around the wealth a little bit. Barack Obama is one of those guys who, before I go back to another quote of Barack Obama's, a lot of your viewers will remember when he said regarding entrepreneurs, regarding folks who are running a business, he said, you didn't build all of that, right? Because businesses rely on certain public resources and resources that the private sector developed. We all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, right? Of course, that is all true. But entrepreneurs create value because of their hard work, their capital, their labor, and because of their creativity, their intellectual property, and the value that they bring in terms of organization. This is real value that is created by these people. You do not want to tell them you didn't create that. Barack Obama is one of those persons who just fundamentally doesn't understand economics. That wealth is not something that just falls off of a tree, and it's for us as participants in the economy to decide how to distribute it. Wealth is something that is built. It is something that is created. You create it through entrepreneurship. You create wealth through your savings, through your investment that comes from that savings. It is not for someone other than the person who created the wealth. It is not up to someone else to decide how to redistribute it. Wealth is not to be distributed. Wealth is to be created and earned. And Free, this would be a good time for me to remind us all. And I remind people in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party all the time. I say, in the Libertarian Party, we have a saying, an expression. We say taxes are theft. The reason in the Libertarian Party that we say taxes are theft is because taxes are theft.
Income taxes should be eliminated for all individuals and businesses.
Certainly completely eliminated for all businesses. It's one of the dumbest policies in the world because it's a manipulative political construct to hide the fact that the government is taxing you as individuals, as people. Regarding an income tax for individuals, a couple of decisions have to be made. Do we want a federal government at all? You have a lot of viewers out there who are anarchists, for whom I have enormous respect. You can build a great argument. You can build a great argument that crazy people like you, Free, are correct. If it is correct that we should not have a federal government, then we shouldn't have a federal income tax. That is true. And I do believe that even those out there who believe that we should have a federal government understand that we should have one that's much, much, much smaller. However we decide that size of government should be and how much money we want to allocate to it, we need to decide, therefore, how we're going to allow that government to raise money. I don't like pinpoint taxes on particular types of transactions because it creates bias in our economy and inefficiencies. It's one of the reasons why I don't like tariffs, for example. I don't like taxes on financial transactions. I don't like taxes on particular foods that you might eat, right? Or luxury taxes. Taxes on things that the government just doesn't like. It shouldn't be up to the government to decide what types of transactions it likes and what types of transactions it doesn't like. That's one of the reasons why people like income tax, because it has the base that's as broad as possible. Having said that, the income tax should not be levied on us as individuals. To the extent to which we allow a federal government to raise money, it should be forced to go to the states, to state legislatures, to make the case that the federal government needs money. It should not come to us as individuals. As individuals, we have no power in that relationship. We cannot stand up to the federal government and say, no, you're coming after me to take too much money. And I know how democracy is supposed to work. We elect representatives, and our democratic republic has these representatives that go to Washington and represent our interests. I don't need that lecture. But as a practical matter, we are atomized. We are all just individuals out there who have no power to stand up to the federal government and say, you're taking too much of our money. We need states to help do that for us. States have more leverage over the federal government and need to stand up and say, you're asking too much.
Side note, last week I tricked the presidential candidate, Chase Oliver, into saying that I was one of the most influential libertarians. And then now this week, you said crazy guys like me are correct. I mean, like, if I'm not having the best week ever, I have no idea, like, how.
Now, to be fair, it's true. To be fair, he said you're one of the most influential libertarians. That, you know, he could have meant like one of the 1 million most influential libertarians.
Hey,
and
hey, I don't need your help making this worse. I mean,
and to be fair, I said one could build an argument that says that crazies like you are correct. I didn't necessarily say that argument would carry the day.
You can see right up here that this is being recorded, so we will have actual evidence of what was said. This is all on the record. It will be submitted to the Smithsonian after we're done recording tonight. So we do have it on record. So
yeah, well, good for you for trusting the Smithsonian. They say we landed on the moon too.
Let's go a little bit faster here. I've got some categories that aren't to the level of taxation and stuff. So let's go rapid fire on trade and commerce. So free trade leads to greater prosperity for all involved.
For all as a total involved. That is absolutely true. Free trade is the best way to grow our overall economy. it needs to be said that international competition will cause disruption in our economy. That is true whether you have tariffs or not. Tariffs and protectionism only puts off the date at which those adjustments need to be made.
So again, you're reading my mind. The government should not impose tariffs on goods.
That is exactly right. Protectionism puts off the adjustments that need to be made. And as anyone who's paid attention to Detroit over the last 40 years, in many cases causes those disruptions to eventually be larger and more painful. If the U.S. government had not been protecting the U.S. automobile industry, the necessary adjustments would have been made over a smoother progression during the 70s, 80s, 90s, rather than all of a sudden Detroit just collapses and people's economic lives disrupted in a way that was really unfortunate and mishandled.
Trade barriers restrict economic freedom and limit consumer choices.
Yes.
Import and export regulations should be abolished.
That is true. The counter argument is tricky. There is a counter argument that says for some temporary period of time, you want the right to maintain certain restrictions as bargaining chips with other nations to induce them to lower their own barriers to trade. But having said that, it's an inefficient way to conduct those transactions, and inevitably and invariably, the costs are borne by American consumers. So I believe the right thing to do is to eliminate trade barriers and then after the fact, go after those nations who maintain their own import-export barriers and immediately start making fun of them.
I got to, even though you just gave me crap 2 minutes ago, I got to give you credit for that was the best answer I've heard on that, to be honest with you. I mean, that was really good. That was the perfect explanation of it. So I really appreciate that. Rapid fire now. Monetary policy and central banking. The Federal Reserve should be abolished.
That is true. The Federal Reserve System should be abolished. That is a multi-step process. It would take a little bit of time. There are very specific things we can do to immediately correct the monetary policy of the Fed. We need to set rules that preclude it from creating money willy-nilly and therefore creating inflation willy-nilly. And this would reduce their political power, which would be the first step toward getting rid of the Fed lock, stock, and barrel.
See, now people are going to think I gave you these questions ahead of time because they're just going together too well, but monetary policy should be left to the free market.
Yes, I do believe that the Fed's participation just in a discretionary fashion undermines the free market's ability to set interest rates and send signals to investors. When's the best time to borrow? When's the best time to invest? It really undermines the efficiency of how financial markets work.
Interest rates should be determined by market forces, not government agencies.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All we should be doing is setting a rule that controls the amount of money that's created so that it increases in step with economic activity, thereby targeting a 0% inflation rate. We should not be targeting a 2% rate the way the Fed, by the way, the Fed doesn't even hit its 2% target rate. Right now, the Fed is bragging about what a good job it's done, and inflation is running at 3%. They can't even get to their own target.
The gold standard should be reinstated to limit government interference in monetary policy.
I would not go all the way back to a gold standard. I would go back to an overall commodity standard, which is to say target 0% inflation by controlling the monetary base. I would not pick gold in particular. There is not a powerful argument that says gold is the one unique thing that you want to be tied to.
What about crypto? Does crypto help with that?
Yes, it does. For a number of reasons. the most important reason I believe, and I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm hoping, I guess, more than predicting, that crypto becomes a competitor to the US dollar as a reserve currency internationally, not just domestically, so that there is pressure brought to bear on those who manage the US dollar to do a better job, as you and I just discussed, but also on the off chance that the US dollar collapses. And I do believe that the federal government is headed toward a financial collapse before the middle of this century. You've heard me say this 100 times. If those markets collapse, we're going to need another financial reserve currency if the dollar collapses. And there just isn't anything on the horizon right now in a respectable second place, not the euro, not the British pound, with all due respect to the Europeans. It's just, they're not there. And so I'm hoping that crypto eventually provides that extra choice.
Central banks are harmful to economic stability.
That's true. Some more than, it's a broad range. It's not really fair. As angry as we get with the Federal Reserve System for undermining the value of the US dollar, and correctly so, it's not fair to lump the Fed in with so many other central banks around the world that are not just much worse, but much worse in fundamentally different ways. This is going to sound weird. Relative to other central banks, we're actually quite lucky that the Fed isn't more politicized than it is. In other nations, there are plenty of examples where their central banks are directly, not indirectly, controlled by their politicians, and therefore inflation runs rampant. This is one of the reasons why Argentina was in such a bad way, that they had hope, right, for one type of politician after another for generations after generations, and finally elected a libertarian in Javier Milei.
All right, so that finishes up our rapid fire round there. Excellent job as always, Mike. Really appreciate getting to talk to a real economist about the huge economic problems that are facing this country. So since you're a VIP, a potential VP VIP, to go Robin Williams on you, I brought in my VIP, which I like to do for big interviews like this. My oldest son has his degree in economics, and my youngest son is planning on studying economics in college. So let me introduce you here to Mini Free, who would like to ask you a question about economics.
Mini Free, it's good to see you.
How's it going? Other candidates have talked about putting in price controls. Is that good for the economy?
No, it's not. Price controls don't work. We know this is a matter of theory, but we also know as a matter of experience, not only in the United States, but around the world. Plenty of nations have experimented with price controls. And what happens is, typically, a nation will decide that prices are too high, or they certainly don't want prices to get too high. So they'll pick out a certain number of goods and say, whatever the price level is currently, it can't go above that. In other words, artificially keep the price down. When the price is artificially kept down, this increases the quantity that people demand, that people want to buy, right? Because the price is relatively low. People want to buy more than they would if the price were to go up to where the market would set it. At the same time, those who provide, those who manufacture the goods or provide the services, they are looking at a price that's artificially low. And so therefore, they provide less than they otherwise would. So this creates a gap between how much people want and how much is provided by the market. And that shortage creates a weird situation where people want more than what's being produced. And this is when you see the shelves empty, for example. You see black markets created where someone is able to acquire something at the artificially low price, and then behind the government's back, they'll put it, on eBay and sell it for what it's actually worth. And then you get the government going after people and locking people up. It turns out to be a real nightmare. So we need prices to allow markets to clear. We say we let markets clear. The price comes up high enough until people are producing enough to meet how much it is that people are demanding.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's an excellent, excellent question.
Well, he already told Chase last week that he's voting for you guys, so we're not going to play hard to get on that one this time. But yeah, so he's a big fan, and he very much enjoyed when you were on last time, and we got to talk economics, and I used him in video games as the example, and now you're in macro right now. And so he's really enjoying that. So he wanted the opportunity to ask a question. So
I think that's terrific. And as you study macroeconomics, you're mostly going to study how the United States government works. Just keep using your imagination about how much it can actually be worse in other countries. And when you get done, we'll chat about other ways that it can be handled other than having a central bank deciding at its own discretion how much money there should be in the system. It's not true that that's the only way to do things.
why does it seem like they only teach Keynesian economics in schools?
That's a great question. I think there's a little bit of momentum. Keynesianism was mainstream, certainly through the days during which I was an undergrad in the 80s as an undergraduate student. I was an engineering student, but the 5 courses in economics that I took, they were still teaching Keynesianism. I think that there's just a natural momentum there, a natural feeling that if the government spends more money, it'll keep the economy going. I don't think that people want to think hard enough to realize that, what goes in must come out, and it doesn't actually work that way. The good news is that graduate schools don't teach Keynesian theory much anymore. You can still find your fill of Keynesian economics, probably places like Harvard. We used to say you can be an economist or you can go to Harvard, but you can't be both. At real graduate schools, you study how the free markets ought to work. Where I went to school at George Washington University, we were a program that was referred to as a rational expectations school, which is a descendant of the Chicago school, which was a descendant of the Austrian school, right? And rational expectations means that investors and other participants in the economy have a fairly it's not perfect, no model is, but the basic tenet is that folks in the economy have a relatively rational expectation of what's going to happen. What are the effects of government policy? And so, in effect, nullifies what it is the government is trying to manipulate people into doing. And it turns out that this is a much, much better model for understanding how the economy actually works than old-fashioned Keynesianism, particularly in the long run.
All right.
Well, thanks for answering his question. Do you got time for one more game?
Let's do it. Rapid fire.
So this is a new game that I made last week. Chase played this one as well, as did Ryan Woodcraft, who was on last week. This one is called Blank the Government. So the way that this one works is it is a fill in the blank question, and then you hit me with a quick answer, still rapid fire, but I'm going to give you the fill in the blank. So you ready to go?
I'm ready.
The best way to promote economic growth is by reducing blank.
Regulation.
Government intervention in the free market often leads to
Heartburn.
excessive government regulation hampers.
Entrepreneurialism.
A healthier economy can be achieved by eliminating
Government.
one of the key barriers to economic prosperity is
Kamala Harris.
nice. Taxes and fiscal policy. High taxes discourage
Economic activity.
excessive taxation, stifles innovation, and
America.
tax cuts allow businesses to invest more in
Themselves.
trade and commerce. Trade barriers prevent consumers from accessing
The products that they actually want.
the best way to encourage economic cooperation is through
Minimalist government.
tariffs and trade restrictions harm.
Me.
International trade thrives when it's free from
Biases and silliness of politicians.
labor and employment. Minimum wage laws reduce opportunities for
people to get jobs,
Government regulations make it harder for businesses to.
do their business,
Workers are more empowered when they are free from.
government oversight.
Government imposed employment laws create unnecessary.
I already used heartburn, right?
Yep.
Unnecessary red tape and lower wages.
I was glad you didn't work your way down the digestive system there. So thanks for skipping that. Occupational licensing laws create barriers to.
I already used entrepreneurialism. Americans' opportunities to create their own businesses.
Healthcare and insurance. Private healthcare providers are more effective than.
Everybody else who thinks they can do it.
Government mandates on health insurance increase.
Increase a feeling that we are being infantilized, that we cannot make decisions for ourselves and we need mama and papa government to take care of us.
Patients have more options when healthcare is free from.
Government restrictions, including licensing and certificate of need rules.
Government mandates on health insurance increase.
Costs.
The best way to lower healthcare costs is to eliminate.
Washington, D.C.
I walked into that one. Government healthcare programs limit the ability of patients to.
Find cheaper alternatives.
The key to healthcare innovation is freedom from.
Government restrictions on competition.
Welfare programs often fail to address the root causes of.
Everything that they pretend that they can address.
The best way to fight poverty is through.
Better housing policy, better zoning policy, ending the war on drugs, forcing police agencies and officers to better adhere to the values of their local communities, ending the monopolization of public schools on our children's education, and to terminate the infantilization of families and allowing parents to make decisions for their children.
Damn, that was the mic drop right there. I'm ending it right there, Mike. That was perfect.
It's been a real joy to be with you. I do make an effort at making your program as boring as possible. And once again, you have defeated me.
No, I mean, you're one of the top thinkers in libertarianism, and I could just pick your brain for hours and hours and hours. And
well, you're very
I wish
kind,
you got more. I wish you got more media, more press, and we're out there more, because you know more about this stuff than probably the top 50 people running as Republicans and Democrats in the whole federal system.
Well, first of all, we got to set the bar higher than that. In all modesty, I will agree with you that the 50 other people running for public office representing the Republicans and Democrats don't know that much about economics, but you haven't set the bar that high. As David Moskrip proved today, it is all about hard work and good attitude. It's not about your ability to think. So I want to encourage all of your viewers to get involved in their communities when they can. If you're within driving distance of a hurricane affected area, reach out to community service organizations and find out how you can play a role, because there are places out there. And if you want to part with $51.99, there's a great way to do that at Libertarian Mutual Aid.org, where, yes, there is such a thing as a free lunch. And you really can get not just 100 cents on the dollar that will go to the relief effort, but 110 cents on the dollar to go to the relief effort.
Look at Terry real quick on the URL live on the screen. I have no idea how to do that, and Terry figured it out. So libertarianmutualaid.org. We uncovered earlier that might stand for organization or a different word that starts with O.
I never knew that. I always thought it was something much more interesting. I'm a little disappointed. It stands for organization.
Mike, I hate to break it to you, but we're nerds. And so not a whole lot is going to be interesting that the two of us talk about, but we'll talk about economics and anarchy and hopefully burning the whole thing to the ground. So
I hear you, dude. I'm not saying you're wrong about anarchy. I didn't say you were wrong.
I think I have a clip where you said that I might be right. So
I think I might have said you might be right. I'm not.
Yeah.
We're going to review the tape on that, the videotape.
I don't know if you can see my little anarchy over my shoulder.
I
here,
can
but
see it. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. So it took me about 4 hours to figure out how to get it to be right over my shoulder. Turns out I was facing the wrong direction, but so
I'm
I
sure
got that working.
there's a government agency out there somewhere with a white paper on how to position that over your shoulder.
Yeah, I keep on, doing this, and I eventually get it to work. But Ocean Blue said she likes nerds, so thank you, Ocean Blue.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
She's a good one. So anything else you want to shout out before you go? I know you've been helping local candidates. I know you've been, super helpful to Nathaniel Snyder's campaign up there in Tampa 14.
Everybody check it out.
Unseat the Wicked Witch of the West Coast of Florida, Kathy Castor.
That's exactly right. He's doing good work here. Everyone support him. He is out there doing great work, helping people who have been affected by the hurricane, prioritizing that ahead of his own political ambitions. And I must say, I'm very, very proud of him. For those that would like to support our campaign, check out votechaseoliver.com. Get involved, send a few bucks. My contact information is at ter.maat.com if anyone out there would like to initiate a conversation.
So I would love to have you back, Mike. Hopefully it'll be, between the election and the inauguration. But, either way, please come back. We could do more fun stuff when you're not on the campaign trail, and doing double duty as David Moskrip's personal OSHA advisor and safety guy. So we would love to have you back. Always fun having you.
Thank you very much. It's a great joy to be with you. Thank you.
So on the way out here, did you hear my Chase Oliver song?
I did not hear your Chase Oliver song. I look forward to that.
So I thought, you guys are doing an excellent job, and I've been very mouthy on the internet about people ignoring you guys, and that Chase is a young guy, and everybody always says we want DC to get younger and we want energy and all this, and then it seems like the average age of our candidates goes up by roughly 100 years every election. I felt like we needed a Chase Oliver theme song, kind of a rally cry, if you will. So on the way out, I'm going to play it for you so you can hear it. So
I would love that.
Once again, thanks for doing this.
Play us off.
It's all a mess. They're fighting wars and causing stress, but Chase Oliver's got the truth to tell. He's tearing down that war machine hell. He'll steal our freedom, waste our days, but Chase is here to change the ways. He's fighting hard for you and me, dismantling that tyranny. Oh!